Good evening, conference organizers, presenters, and participants, and welcome to this presentation where women's art version of patriarchal polarization and the female dimensional disruption of space and time in Bioshock Infinite will be analyzed. Before proceeding with the presentation, I would ask you to download a QR code scanner so you can consult the bibliographical references towards the end of my intervention. Video games currently hold a central position in the entertainment industry, with an exponential economical growth from its $19.66 billion revenues in 2009 to $160 billion in 2019, and user increase from 3 hours per week in 2016 US to over 14 weekly hours in 2020. Unlike literary and audiovisual text, video games offer an interactive experience which invites players to actively involve in the story. Video game interactivity is both one of the cornerstones of their success and players' effective immersion in the culture-sensitive ideological enrooting of its narrative. Bioshock Infinite, a 2013 multi-platform game, integrates the last game of the homonymous trilogy and produced 44% of the total 25 million copies sold in the saga. Hence, the worldwide outrage of Bioshock Infinite would serve as cultural artifact to promote its leitmotif, the polarization of Western patriarchies into the private sphere of the house and the public sphere of society. Such a socio-political game board would be based on the traditional task division, where women performed their care for the community duties from a discrete position within the four walls of their homes, while men fulfilled their roles as protectors and resource providers from the hostile environment. In this AAA title, the public sphere of professionalism and politics would be incarnated by protagonist Detective DeWitt and antagonist Prophet Comstock respectively, who fight over the custody of a damsel in distress. At the other end, Elizabeth Comstock would embody the prosecuted maiden, imprisoned physically in Monument Island and disabled by a siphon which drains her supernatural powers from an inescapable exclusion from positions of socio-political salience. Thus, the conflict between DeWitt and Prophet Comstock on the control over the supernatural female recreates a cautionary narrative where women's power to disrupt the space-time continuum is deployed to hint at women's insertion in politics and professional life as an omen of destruction of human communities, and justifies the displacement of women from the common well-being. The life of reclusion of Elizabeth Comstock in the angel-shaped tower in Columbia is presented as a happy life experience with a vast library and a painting room as the woman's only portals to interact with the outer reality. Elizabeth's awakening as a woman and her longing for freedom would lead to an emotional instability which motivates the physical escape from her imprisonment. The evasion would occur through tears, bridges in space-time which permit her to transport to other geographical and historical enclaves to leave their imprisonment temporarily, which would suggest that women can reach where they desire in the world without having to leave the private sphere of the house. Elizabeth's tearing of space-time tissue within the special observation facility in her tower is presented as an environmentally innocuous experience. However, her liberation by the wit and her temporary insertion in the public sphere entails the unleash of an uncontrolled power which menaces the stability of the universe itself. Initially, Elizabeth's gift to open tears in space and time serves to fulfill her caring duties by providing medicine and ammunition when the wit is in high need. However, the woman's unmodulated power in the growing complexity of Elizabeth's rescue mission originates irreversible repercussions in the dimensional planes connected by tears. By the way of the example, Elizabeth's desire to travel to Paris guides her attempts to revive gunsmith Chen Lin by exporting him from a parallel dimension in time when Chen Lin has not been assassinated yet. The woman's fearful powers to alter the balance between death and life cause an interdimensional contamination which changes reality as exhibited in Chen Lin's wife, who is a Chinese woman in the game plot of the original timeline, but a white Western woman after Elizabeth retrieves Chen Lin from an alternative dimensional plane. At this moment, Elizabeth ignores that her alteration of the historical sequence will be behind the death of the alternative Chen Lin. The temerity of Elizabeth's distortion of the basic space-temporal linearity does not only impact collaterally in the story plot, but also affects substantially to the adventure by transporting both protagonist and deuteragonist to a universe plane where the hero has succumbed in Vox Populi revolution against Comstock. As a result of the space-temporal fusion caused by tears, the wit can experiment being both dead, as expected to happen in the future, and alive, as the wit is in his original universe plane. Last analysis-worthy instance, where the uncontrolled female's presence in the public sphere is presented as a source of distraction, would be Fiat a Tear by Elizabeth to 1982 Paris, where the front of Regent Cinema advertises La Revanche du Jedi, a discarded title for Star Wars The Return of the Jedi. This may subtly suggest that the inner game woman's manipulation of reality has a potential to affect the player's own reality, altering the original project of this renowned film. To sum up, video games hold a central position in the worldwide entertainment industry due to the interactive factor which facilitates players' immersion in the narrative and ideological enrooting of the video game product. To this regards, AAA Bioshock Infinite manages to summon the bipolarization of Western patriarchies according to the traditional gender-based task division, where the public sphere of politics and professionalism lays off bounds of women. This bicephalous conception on society is represented, on the one hand, by Elizabeth Comstock, a damsel in distress who grew up captive in a tower in the sky city of Columbia and uses her limited supernatural powers to escape temporarily her prison. On the other hand, Detective DeWitt and Prophet Comstock fight over the custody of the object of power, which takes shape in the figure of the woman. The dangers of women's active participation in the public sphere is exhibited throughout Elizabeth's rescue mission, where she involuntarily distorts reality through tears, breaches in the space-time tissue, which have the faculty to change reality as conceived. The impact of women's manipulation of reality is observed in Elizabeth's alteration of the balance between death and life when she retrieves gunsmith Chenlin from a reality where he has not been assassinated yet, taking the protagonist and her to a universe plane where the wit has already died. Upon the hope that this lecture was of your like, I'm just here to thank you for your attention and invite you to consult the bibliography deployed for my research in the QR code. Now feel free to ask any question you may have, which I will gladly try to answer. Thank you very much.